Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast, a show for artists, creators, creative entrepreneurs to have heartfelt conversations about living a creative life and a career. As you go into this show, hear your favorite creators talk about money, mindset, business, creativity, and everything else that goes behind into making a life that we all adore as an artist. Hear the messy and the wonderful side of being a creative. I am your host, Charika Arora, an artist, creator, and founder of Arts to Hearts project. Thank you for joining me here. Let's jump right in. Hello, Rebecca. Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast.
Oh, very nice to meet you, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you for coming. I think I saw your work, and I think I remarkably remember and been following your work when I saw your collaboration with Good Earth. It's an Indian brand that I absolutely love. I really enjoy their aesthetic, their story, and their products. And it was so nice to see your work there. And ever since then, I thought, I needed to bring you on the podcast. So big welcome and thank you. Before we get into all of those things, can you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do for people who are listening to this episode?
Okay, so I'm an artist and I live in London, and I went to art school when I was 18 and studied illustration, which I loved. And then from there, it sort of progressed. I've done all sorts of different things, from painting murals, furniture, doing illustration work, and I seem to be a painter now. I grew up in Ireland, in the countryside, and it's had a huge impact on my work. I love painting lots of birds, plants, and animals. And then, I've been lucky enough. I went traveling to India. Yes. After I went to art school, and I just fell in love with India and the Mughal painting. That's had a huge influence on me.
Yeah, I read that. I was going through your website and I read that you stayed and visited India for a couple of months. You saw miniature painting, and I don't know, did you learn anything here when it came to miniature or something, or was it just looking at the work?
No, it was just looking at them. But also the whole sort of colours of India, you can't help but you just completely blasted from every side. Magic of colour and vibrancy. So yes, that definitely poured into my work, I think.
I love that, because while I was reading your statement, and just generally, I hate the word statement, but generally just what you had to say on your website, and it said that your visit to India has had a huge impact on your work till now. And when was your visit to India?
So it was after I left art school. So I was 22, 23.
Goodness. Wow.
And doing what people do, backpacking. So I went to Australia to save some money, and then travelled up through the Far East and spent the last 3 months travelling actually on my own around India. And I was like, how am I going to survive in India by myself? And then I just thought, how does anybody survive here? It's so full on. But I was just totally blown away by it. So, yes, to end up working with Good Earth was just extraordinary.
Yeah. No, but what's even more extraordinary is that sometimes, when I saw your work, and I saw your collaboration also, and in general also your work, I did see a lot of Indian influence. But what's even more strange is, for some reason, I believe that you may have some more engagement with being in India, or being associated, or just having influence. And I think sometimes, even as an artist, to see something in a grander scheme of things, you visited India, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, if I'm wrong. I mean, right. And you fast forward 20 years in your life, it still has a huge impact. And those 3 months still have a huge say in who you are and what you do. Did you even think that would happen when you were
not in
to India?
A million years, no. Not in a million years. I don't think you do with life. It's another thing is I collected ornaments of elephants when I was little. And I know an elephant charity. So it's just funny how different things feed in. You never expect. And so I just think with life, somehow everything keeps coming back.
Yeah, that's when I read that you visited India so long ago, and even today you're using that as an inspiration that still brings you brings you joy and inspiration. It's so remarkable, and even some a reminder sometimes, sometimes we don't even understand how some even a little incident, an experience, can bring so much impact in our lives. Okay, I also read that you were born and brought up in the countryside, Ireland. Like, can you describe how that was? Because I read that you had a huge influence about that in your own work today.
I was actually born in England, but my parents moved to Ireland when I was 2. And we
Okay.
lived in the countryside. It was only 13 miles outside Dublin, but it was very, very rural then. And it was an extraordinary place, partly because they have so much rain. So they have amazing gardens. And also, I guess, probably not a very good thing, but again, the English, been in Ireland for the last 400 years, and on the back of the Irish had built enormous houses and exploited the Irish. But in
Yeah.
having done that, created the most amazing walled gardens. And so there was that sort of grandiose style that I kind of grew up with seeing. And then the Irish humour. The people were so lovely. And it's just a much more relaxed way of thinking about things. And yeah, the humour's definitely entered into my work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the gardens, the elephants, birds. And something that I really like about your work, and that's something I also read in a few reviews of your work, were like how simple, raw, organic, or like they almost like feel like, I mean, I don't know how to say it right. Like sometimes you feel that you're not trying too hard. Like there's a lot of ease into your work, I feel like.
Well, that's very nice to hear. And yes, I mean, I think that they do look quite simple, but I can't begin to tell you how much, I
Yes,
do endless
absolutely.
little drawings to try and perfect the compositions and things. So there's a lot of thought process behind them, but actually once I do the paintings, you're right, they look quite simple.
Yeah. And I think that's the charm about it. Because I think in an age where we're all trying to be perfect, it's the imperfection that stands out. And I think that the naturalness and I think the organicness of something that's getting even more expensive and rare.
Mm. No, well, that's very kind of you to think like that. So thank you. I'm going to take that.
How was your journey? Like you said, when you started really long ago, your career
Yeah,
as an
I'm
artist.
very old.
And it's come a long way. I think you've seen, oh my God, this is a very interesting question. You've seen a huge change and you've been working all these years. Like you've seen the traditional pattern, then you've like the modern age, the tech age. Let's talk about that. Like how you started your career as an artist, what it took till now.
Okay, well, yeah, you're right. I did start before the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went to art school when I was 18, and I came out with an A1 size portfolio. I mean, just huge. And I used to turn up
Oh
at
wow.
publishing offices, and they had tiny desks. And they used to roll their eyes in despair as I, opened up this enormous portfolio. So now, you just like send a few digital images to them. It's
Yeah.
extraordinary change. So you're right. I have seen huge changes. I think you just have to keep going with the times. It's important to try and
Yeah.
keep up. In some respects, it's much easier now. Your work is much more accessible, and then things like Instagram and things like that. I mean, the downside, I think, is there's just there are so many artists and all competing with
Yeah.
each other and all trying to be visible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a roller coaster. I will say that, but I think all artists have that.
Absolutely. What's even like interesting is that your work varies over a lot of mediums. Like you've experimented and put a mark for yourself in very different zones. Like you've done books, products, collaborations, fine art, like a lot of different experimented with a lot of different things as an artist to see where it goes. Can you talk about I think in the time that you started, I'm sure I don't know how the idea of being an artist like felt at that point. Like even today, if you go and tell someone that you want to be an artist, it may not be the best I don't know reaction that we can, like, it's still building up. People are still finding the ways and routes into it. How was back then? What moved you forward? And how have you experimented these different mediums?
So you're right. I mean, my father was horrified that I wanted to be an artist. So yeah, I got it from the start. And I mean, understandable, because, being an artist, you don't have a regular income, and it's a difficult road. But I think someone said, you don't choose to do art, art chooses you. I think that's very true.
I love
And
that.
I trained as an illustrator, really, so that, I had a sort of, I guess, a professional training as a way of
Yeah,
earning a living. I mean, the trouble was I came out of art school with so many different styles that no one knew what to commission from me. And I think it was, I fell down flat, really. And then I found a way. So then I started producing furniture, really as a vehicle for people to see my work. And I think all artists are actually entrepreneurs, and you just find different ways of
absolutely.
working. And also, I love working on different projects. And I'll always say yes. And that's the other thing. I always say yes to everything, because it's always good to be challenged. And yeah, I mean, for example, working with Good Earth, I'd never designed for a dinner service before. So suddenly I
Yeah.
was learning about ceramics and things. I mean, how fun was that?
Yeah, even with the good earth thing, I read that I think I was reading Architecture Digest, and it said like you'd been working with oils, and when you figured that you needed to work with ceramics and oil wasn't the best combination, you transitioned and explored watercolors. How was? Let's also talk
Yes.
about this project.
So, yeah, I mean, that was, again, a huge learning curve, because I've always found watercolours very difficult. But I have to say, working with Anita Lal, the head of Good Earth, I mean, she was incredible. She saw something on me. And it was just, she was in lockdown in Delhi and I was in lockdown in London, and we just did the whole thing through WhatsApp. So I did drawings in London and sent her photographs, and then started doing the watercolours. And between us, it was definitely a collaboration of bouncing ideas off each other, coming up with the design. And again, it just pushed me in a different direction. So I was very happy.
Have you ever imagined your work in a home, or was this like did you manifested this, or this came out of by surprise?
No, I mean, this was a total surprise. I've always thought it would be nice to do ceramics, but yeah, no, this was a total bolt out of the blue. They contacted me through Instagram, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I I love that. Let's also talk about finding these opportunities and having these projects that we all love and like we want to be. But how did it happen? Let's talk about that. How did it come to life?
So yeah, it was through the wonders of Instagram, and I think that they'd been following another Instagram account, Hearts of Hindustan, and who championing my work. And also, as I mentioned before, I do a lot of work with Elephant Family, and Good Earth has also worked with Elephant Family. So there were sort of one or two crossovers. So I think that's how they found me, through those channels. And then they asked if I'd like to work with them.
Tell me something in all these years that you've worked. What has been your biggest struggle being an artist? You've seen it all. You've seen a lot of different times. When you carried your portfolios to sending emails, all of that. What has been something that has stayed for you, or that you feel is still like one of the major highlights of being an artist? Something you've worked through.
For me, having, I guess, supported myself over the last 30 years or whatever, has been amazing. And I've had so many highs, and it is addictive. And I still get an absolute thrill when I sell a painting and I have exhibitions. And I just think it's amazing that somebody wants your work, and so that's fantastic. I think the lows are the lack of security, and I find that very, very wearing, and always worrying about money, and thinking, oh my God, I've got nothing in the pipeline, or, just, the lack of certainty, I think. But I chose to do this, so and I'm still going.
I think this is something that we're all, and also I think I love what I even love about even having this conversation with you and notice is your mindset. Like, even though you started really early, and a lot of artists today recognize with the idea that they're not only artists but they're also entrepreneurs in themselves, small businesses in themselves, and operating like one. And that's how we can make our career sustainable, do what we love, and change with, adapt, and like take ownership of our work. I really liked you said the same thing in the beginning when we started a conversation. And that's honestly, that's not something that a lot of people coming from your experience, or even from today, not everybody embraces and understands that. Did you, when you signed up to being an artist, whatever that, in itself means, did you think that this was a path of being an entrepreneur and finding things for yourself?
Oh God, absolutely not. No. And I can't say I was ever a businesswoman, or and I was really bad to begin with about pricing and all sorts of different things. So no, I've really had to learn how to do all that. After art school, I did have a job working in an office for a bit, doing the artwork for a magazine, but I was also in charge of some other things like the accounts. And so although I thought this job is leading nowhere, I learned actually how to do accounts, how to do marketing, and all these different skills that you need. And you don't, I'm sure it's different now at art schools, but I wasn't taught anything at art school.
Not really.
And I think that's criminal, that, we're so unprepared when we leave.
Yeah.
I think you're these needs when you leave, you've got this portfolio of work, and that's just the beginning. So, yeah.
I love this because this conversation has been going around for a long while now, especially in the arts. Today I was listening to this episode. I don't know if you've heard of Jenna Kuchar. She was a photographer, is a photographer, turned into this huge digital marketing expert, and she has a podcast. And she had one of the, I don't remember actor's name actually, but these were two girls from The Office. Main leads came in. I forgive me, I don't remember, but they're basically TV. They're basically TV actors, highly celebrated TV actors, and now they're having their own podcasts and all of that. And she was sharing her experience, and she shared I came from a film school, I came from an acting school, and I think one of the biggest struggles that she talked about in this episode was that when we came out, we had no idea. We thought that acting, we would just pretend and play roles, and that's how it's all going to be, and that's all we do. Like for us as artists, we think we're going to draw and paint, and we'll find you'll find a project or a gallery or an agent, someone who's going to do everything for you, and you're just going to sit in a corner and do that, which was absolutely untrue for all of us. And that's how she said it also. When they started actors, and I find this so interesting because it was such a light bulb moment for me when I was listening to this podcast. And she was like, when we came out as actors, we operate like small businesses. And I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And she was like, finding roles. And she was like, when The Office started, it aired for quite a while. It felt like they would had to shut the show down with every week, and they always were these artists who had to think about where to get their next work from, or even as artists, having that financial goals and making sure that you're covering yourself for the month and making sure you have projects lined up and all of those things. And it was so amazing to listen to that, and something that we are still talking about and having this conversation. That's a huge gap as creatives that we're not being trained for to work in the real life.
Yeah, no, it's very true, I think. Yeah, no, as you say, absolutely fascinating that actors have that problem as well. Yeah.
How did you deal with that? How have you, because you've really picked up, it's not that you have, I think for most of people, even today, you have a wonderful website. You're very much there on social media. You've had these wonderful collaborations. So you're doing pretty well with the time that we are in today. How was it dealing with technology and changing times for you, and how have you trained yourself keeping up with everything? How has that been?
Well, I can't say I'm an expert.
Oh, you're pretty good.
Well, you're very kind. I think it's important to keep up. Otherwise, you're just going to become a dinosaur. It's actually quite fun. And yeah, I mean, for example, my website, you're very kind to say that it's good, but I just got so fed up asking somebody else how to do it, or if they could load up more images and all the rest of it. So I got someone to teach me how to do it, and she set up
Oh,
the
wow.
parameters of it, and I can now do it myself. And yeah, I just think it's much easier if you can take control of things.
Yeah.
And again, Instagram, I knew nothing about, but it's such a great tool for artists because it's so visual and it's a whole new world. And it is amazing the things that can come through it. So I just look at it as exciting things. And I think it's important to always learn, always, keep going.
I love that. Let's also talk a little bit about your work. How do you find? I think one of the biggest. I think before we even go that, one more last question about this is finding the balance between creativity and the ever evolving role as an entrepreneur, artist, and admin and website and orders and all of these things. How do you find your creative balance?
I don't think I do. I only work to deadlines. I'm useless without deadlines. So yeah, if something needs to be done that day, you just do it. I don't have a timetable of thinking, okay, now I do the website or whatever. I mean, I have exhibitions. So for example, I've got a show coming up and I've just had all my work photographed. So in the next few weeks, I will be uploading them onto the website and creating a new page and things. So I guess it's just thinking about things and invoicing and things. I try and do things first thing in the morning, and then I don't have to think about it for the rest of the day and just get on with painting.
Oh, wow. And how does I think one of the major things you've had 30 years, let's say. We don't have anybody looking over our heads, no boss, nobody. Most of the time, sometimes not even projects. Sometimes you don't have a show, a project that gives you the momentum to keep going. How do you keep yourself in check and inspired and still make the work and do the work when there is no per se pressure externally that's giving you a purpose?
I find that really difficult. I mean, I've been so lucky over the last, I don't know how many years, I've always had something to work towards. But I mean, for example, this summer, I've now finished the work for my show and I definitely want to take some time off. But I am thinking about 1 or 2 projects. So yes, there are things in the back of my mind. And I think, actually it'd be great to try and work on those. But I'm not going to say anything because I probably won't do it.
But I think with artists, we're also a box full of ideas that there's so many ideas, but just so little time.
Yes, I think that's very true. Very true. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's come back to your work. Can you talk a little bit about how does a typical day look for you?
So a typical day is that my studio is an 8-minute cycle ride from my house or a 20-minute walk, which is fantastic. And it's in a big warehouse with about 40 people. And I have to say that's been another big saviour for me, actually being in a place with other artists. So you're right, artists always work on their own and it can be extremely lonely. But this place is great because there's so many other people around, different disciplines, from ceramicists, textiles, jewelers, painters.
Wow.
So that's where I go every day. And my space isn't particularly big. And I suppose at the moment, my working day is because I've got this show in September. So I've just spent the last 6-8 months producing 24 paintings. And I set a theme to each exhibition that I have. And this one is a festival of colour, because I just think we need to celebrate things.
Wow. Love that.
So my day has just been filled with creating these paintings.
Oh, wow. And what do you like? How do you keep yourself inspired? You've been working for a really long time. That means you've done a lot of your ideas. You've given out a lot of births of ideas. Um, how do you keep yourself inspired going with time forward? Like, how does that work for you?
Times change so much. I mean, for example, this exhibition I've called a Festival of Colour, because I just think we need to celebrate. And there's so much bad news. I think we just need to remember to celebrate nature, or happiness, or any of these different things. And my last show I called Still Life, because suddenly our lives became very, very still. So in a way, my shows have been reflecting the time. The show before that I called Gardener's World, and I didn't know it when I set the theme, because that was before these lockdowns. But actually everyone started gardening and celebrating their garden. So that was just sort of coincidental, but a happy one.
Wow. Love that. Oh my God. Amazing. What are you excited about for, from here? What is that you're looking forward to in your work, in your life as a creative? Anything your heart's really calling you for, something that's really exciting you and you want to wish for?
I have to say I really enjoyed working with Good Earth, and I would love to do some collaborations and work on different projects. I think that would be really, really fun. And I've already got a couple of shows lined up, so I've got to work towards those for paintings. And I think just being open to opportunities. I love that. I never really plan anything, but hopefully things will happen.
I think that's very true. Can you also talk a little bit about how has that, you've done a lot of collaborations, like let's say with the elephant family. Can you really talk about what that is? Then the opera, you did 4 commissions, I guess, for them. Then you did Good Earth. How has all these projects been for you? What have you learned from them, per se, when it comes to commission projects as an artist?
So Elephant Family was very special, actually. It was I went to a talk in the beginning of the 1990s by someone called Mark Shand, who actually bought an elephant and rode it across India, and then realised through the doing this the plight of the Asian elephant, and he set up this charity, Elephant Family. And I didn't know that he'd done this until I received an email from the charity, I think in 2009, asking if I'd like to paint an elephant. I mean, how could you resist?
Wow. Yeah, right.
And so I ended up painting 2 elephant sculptures that were part of a big exhibition that was displayed all over London, and they sold for phenomenal amounts of money that raised lots of money for the charity. And then they've done different projects since then, and I've become more and more involved. I was very honoured they asked me to be an ambassador in 2015, I think. And I actually went on a trip with them to India in 2017, and then did an exhibition in London, again, to raise more money. And then this year they did eggs, and they had an egg for each era of the Queen's 70 years on the reign. So they were displayed around the streets of London, and I did the 1960s sort of flower power. So that was fun to do. And they've been an amazing charity, I think, because they're quite small. They know where the money's going on the ground. So, that's been an amazing collaboration. The opera was actually an opera place in London, Holland Park Opera, and they commissioned me to do 4 paintings for the 4 operas they were going to put on that summer, and they were going to be used on their programmes and things. Unfortunately, the whole season got cancelled because of COVID. So it never happened, but it was a fun commission to do. And Good Earth and 1 or 2 other things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so thrilled to have had you, and thank you so much for sharing so much about your work. But before I let you go and wrap this up, are you ready for a rapid fire?
Oh God, okay.
It's such a, I think it's rapid fires are my favorite.
No, for my worst.
No, we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out. I don't think
Okay.
you. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Give it a
Okay.
go.
Yeah. So you have to be quick. You have to give me what comes first to you, and you have to be just be yourself. There's no right and wrong. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. One thing you want to convey through your work in the arts.
Happiness.
What's that one word that describes you the best?
Upbeat.
If you could have a studio anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Mexico.
Wow. I thought it would be India.
I'm sorry. I know. When I said that, but
I think maybe
feel like
both.
I know India, but I've been to Mexico only
Oh,
once
yes.
to go
Yes,
back.
that makes sense. 100%. No. You have such a good rationale behind that. No, absolutely. Okay, your biggest source of inspiration.
I'd have to say the environment, nature.
Who's your favorite woman artist?
Paula
Any point of
Rego.
time. Amazing. Who's your go-to person when you're in trouble or in need of advice?
My sister.
Okay, this is more than a word, so you're allowed. I'm sure there must have been many, but is there a particular moment that you can share with us? Your favorite moment as an artist, a moment or an experience that made you feel grateful for who you are, what you do, something that you cherish a lot.
Oh gosh. I think for me the most extraordinary moment was when I got a call out of the blue when this gallery in London phoned me and asked if I'd like to exhibit, and I was like, oh, I don't do paintings, I only do murals. And that was 20 years ago, and I'm still showing with that gallery, and that phone call changed my life.
Wow, I love that. Yes, so good. Okay, if you were to meet younger Rebecca today, what advice would you give her?
Don't be an artist. I'm kidding. Don't worry so much.
Yeah. The younger Rebecca would get confused with what's happening with future Rebecca.
Yeah, I think don't worry so much. Go with it.
She would be worried about you and like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to an artist you're currently loving on social media. Someone's work that you're enjoying on social media, particularly. Anybody.
Jethro Buck. He's an English
Okay.
artist, but he's again very much influenced by Indian Mughal paintings.
I have to check it out. Absolutely. As a woman creative entrepreneur, what's that one word of advice you want to give to other artists listening to this episode?
Keep going.
Love that. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so glad that we did this. Though I forgot to ask you one question, which is,
Okay.
have you come to Agra and visited Taj Mahal?
I have been to the Taj Mahal. I've been twice.
Oh
And the mini
wow!
Taj.
Hey. Oh, you've seen
And
that too?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I went there 30 years ago and then about 10 years ago.
Oh wow! You need to come back, and when you do, I'll take you around.
Okay, cool. You're on.
Yeah, I this is my hometown, so I'll give you a whole tour. Not only art, I think Agra is such a beautiful place of culture, Indian culture, great Indian food, and of course
Yes.
art and architecture. Like it's
Yes.
such a perfect mix.
No, I thought it was a beautiful place. I loved it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Before I let you go, can you share any new project that you're working on, anything that we can support you with, people where they can find you, follow your work, and just, support you?
Well, thank you. As I mentioned, I've got this show exhibition on in London starting, I think it's on the 7th of September, runs till the 8th of October, with a gallery called Jonathan Cooper. And as I've mentioned, it is a festival of colour. So it'll be 24 new paintings. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how that's all going to go.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And I will take all this information from you and then add it to the show notes. So anyone who's interested, you can find Rebecca's website, Instagram, her collaboration with Godot, the Elephant Family, and some of her works, everything in the show notes. So when you're finished listening to this episode, make sure you click in the link in this bio so that you can not only listen but also see what we've spoken about and find a transcript of this episode on the website. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so thrilled to have you on the show, and thank you so much for your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for asking me. It's been lovely to meet you. See you in Agra.
Same, yeah. Yes, very soon. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find all the details and links mentioned in the show notes of this episode available on www.arts2heartsproject.com. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to tag us in your stories and leave us a review here on iTunes or any of your favorite platforms. It really helps us to keep the show going. Thank you so much. I'm sending you lots of love, and I can't wait to be back here soon again. Bye.